time for our story. Today we're going to read an informational text called Buildings, Buildings, Buildings by Judith Bauer Stamper. We're going to read this book because it talks about all the different types of buildings. Well, maybe not all of them, but many different types of buildings that you might see in your neighborhood or city. And as we read, we're going to make a list of the types of buildings we learn about in this book. An informational text is meant to teach us something. You'll notice in this book that we're going to be seeing photographs of real buildings and not drawing. That's another way that you know this is an informational text. All right, as we read, we'll make this list, and then you'll see how we can take the things that we learned from this book and put them down on paper to remember them. All right, let's get started. Buildings, Buildings, Buildings by Judith Bauer Stamper. Buildings, Buildings, Buildings. What is a building? A building is a place that shelters people or things. Your community is full of all kinds of buildings. They provide a place for people to learn, work, shop, travel, or play. You learn in what kind of building do you think this is? In a school. A school can be big or small. You go to different school buildings as you grow up. Let's look inside. So the first type of building that we learned about is a school. I'm going to add that to our list of types of buildings. School. All right, let's keep reading to learn about some more types of buildings. Libraries are built for learning too. One thing all libraries have in common is lots of, do you know it? Books. Let's look inside. So the second type of building we learned about is a library. Let me add that to our list. Library. What sound do you hear at the beginning of the word library? Ooh, yeah, L makes the L sound. Library. All right, let's read on to learn some more. You can shop for food in a grocery store. A grocery store can be a little shop on the corner or a huge supermarket. Let's look inside. What do you see in the grocery store? Does it remind you of any grocery stores you've been to? Let's add that to our list. Grocery stores are really important buildings in our community. They help us get food. All right, grocery store. There. Now that we've written that down, we won't forget. Let's keep reading. A post office is a building where workers send mail all over the country and all over the world. Big post offices in large cities handle millions of pieces of mail each year. Even a small town post office handles mail in large numbers. Let's look inside. All right, let's add post offices to our list. They're a type of building where you can go to send mail. Post office. All right, I wonder what type of building will come next. Do you recognize it? Hospitals Hospitals are buildings where doctors and nurses work. Hospitals have patient rooms, operating rooms, recovery rooms, and rooms full of special equipment for saving lives and treating diseases. Let's look inside. Let's add hospitals to our list. Hospitals. Hospitals are so important, especially right now, in keeping people healthy. Adults go to work in many different types of buildings. A huge office building has many small offices inside. A factory has large rooms with machines. Factories make everything from cars to toys. Let's look inside a factory. So on this page, it talked about two different types of places where adults work, office buildings or factories. Adults can work in lots of other types of buildings too. Like me, I work in a school. Let's add both of those. Offices and factories. I hear the sound. What letter is that? F. Factories. All right, we've learned a lot of different types of buildings. We're running out of space. There are special buildings where journeys start and end. Do you recognize this place? At an airport, passengers can get on and off planes at big buildings called terminals. Trains and ships have terminals too. Let's look inside. Let's add airports to our list. Airports. All right, got a couple more. Do you like sports? Millions of people do. Cheering fans pack basketball arenas, ballparks, and football stadiums. Let's look inside. Let's add stadiums to our list. Wonder if any of you have been to any of the stadiums in Washington, D.C. My favorite is Audi Field. I love going to watch soccer games. Some buildings were made for sharing beautiful art and music. People hear music in concert halls. They look at art in art museums. The buildings can be beautiful too. Let's look inside a museum. Museums. So many museums in Washington, D.C. We're so lucky to have those in our city. I'm going to add it up here. Museums. It's an M. Museums. All right, we're almost at the end. Our country celebrates its history and heroes with buildings that are monuments and memorials. The Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. honors President Abraham Lincoln. Let's look inside. So especially here in our city, we have a lot of monuments and memorials. Let's add those to our list. Monuments and memorials start the same. Monuments, hey, they start just like museum. Memorials, they both start with M. Monuments and memorials. All right, last page. Every building has a special job. Can you guess what these buildings do? All right, we read our book, Building Buildings by Judith Bauer Stamper today, an informational text which taught us about the different types of buildings. We got to see pictures of them on the outside and on the inside. Let's take one quick look back at our list to see what types of buildings we learned about today. Types of buildings. We learned about schools, museums, hospitals, monuments and memorials, libraries, offices, stadiums, grocery stores, airports, post offices, and factories. Those are just some of the types of buildings that we might see in our city. Are any of these types of buildings in your neighborhood? I'd love to know. If you'd like to answer that question, you can get back to me with an email or any type of message. Would love to hear more about the types of buildings you're noticing in your neighborhood. And if you forget some of the types, you can always look back here because we've written them down. We won't forget. Thank you so much for joining me for our story Buildings today, and I will see you next time, Rockets. Bye.